to the Invisible Cabaret podcast. I'm Ferrero Rochelle.
And I'm Rosie Verbose.
And together we run Invisible Cabaret, a performing arts troupe dedicated to opening up the conversation surrounding mental health.
Join us as we talk to some of the most bodacious burlesque babes, cabaret creatives and inspiring artists about how their creativity and mental health intertwine. Let's pull back the curtain and strip away stigma.
Please note, we at Invisible Cabaret are not mental health professionals. If you're affected by any of the issues raised in this programme, we've made a list of resources for you on our website, www.invisiblecabaret.org/podcast/resources.
It's that time again. Yes, welcome to the Invisible Cabaret podcast with me, Rosie Verbose, and lovely Ferrero Rochelle. Say hello, Ferrero.
Hello. We are very excited today to be joined by someone who is a burlesque entrepreneur, an author, a business coach, a musician, so many more, a creative all-rounder. Welcome, Sapphira.
Hey, thanks for having me.
There's so many strings to your bow, Sapphira, that we literally ran out of words there for how to describe you.
Yeah, try and write a bio. I can never squeeze it into 50 words. I'm like, that's at least, I need at least 10 of them to say all the different strings. I can't
Exactly.
That's why entrepreneur, I feel like, is one of those mysterious words that could be a lot of things.
Okay, so that's a word that you run with then. But burlesque is a big passion of yours, isn't it, Sapphira? Fair to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think anyone who's sort of probably wandered onto your podcast is similar. It's just a really captivating art form and has given me a lot of, avenues to express myself.
I mean, we can't wait to delve into some of those avenues today. I'm thinking with World Burlesque Day and the Ibiza Burlesque Festival. Can we talk about some of those sort of projects and things that you run and pioneer?
Definitely. I just really want burlesque to have a sort of major shift in perception for the public. And I think that we are in an opportune time to really grasp and take our art form into a safe place where people really understand and trust it, and we're in this more eccentric category rather than suspicious category, which I think in some instances, and I'm finding this around the world now, we seem to be sometimes tarred with this sort of brush of mistrust and a bit suspicious.
Fascinating. Already got some questions there, but I'll try and rein it in. I'll be good. So we've got World Burlesque Day. So what's the story behind that? So that's about shifting public perception, essentially.
Mm-hmm. It's about two purposes: participation, which is to demystify the art form of burlesque and enable anyone from the public to give it a go or get involved or have a look at it because they might have heard of it and not quite understand what it is. Sure. And the second is to connection, which is just to connect the global burlesque community because there's so many of us and we've never really had a way to connect before. On a day we are all equal, where there's not, an entry or a application form. It's just something anyone can run with, and it's a day that we're all part of.
Wow, that sounds lovely. So inspiring. Definitely something to watch out for. So let's talk about your experience with the Ibiza Burlesque Festival, because when I hear Ibiza, I don't think Burlesque Festival.
No, maybe not the first association.
No, you're so right. But I've been trying to bring, a champion for neo-burlesque, which is not probably very obvious from the way I portray myself with balloons and singing Marilyn Monroe. But my own album has been a fusion of dance music, working with the world's best producers. And it was when I went to Ibiza on my honeymoon that I saw the first, iteration of a phenomenal live show synchronized in like a multi-million-dollar venue with DJ production, that I realized my dream was actually like in its fledgling stages. And I wanted to really bring that even more articulate in a festival and have these super clubs as my playground. So they were very much already on board with burlesque. Dita had been there for about 10 years performing in the DJ's sets.
No idea.
Yep.
Goodness me.
That's how I wound up there, because I was kind of, following her lead, and I thought if she's starting to break down the barriers took my husband there for our honeymoon, which wasn't really relaxing. We promised we wouldn't network, but we were. We were standing side of stage in feathers and handing out CDs and cards.
It's the hustle.
Really seriously hustling, but they had this mega show on called Burlesque, and there were billboards all over the island. So it wasn't a burlesque show. It was a club night with burlesque themes. Everyone was in feathers and pearl like lingerie on horses, and it was a super club. But I thought this is my chance to actually ride with this, because burlesque was all over the island on billboards. So people were starting to understand what it was. Barcelona had its burlesque festival, and I just went for it, and just told people I was bringing burlesque and clubbing together.
Amazing. What's the reception been like for that so far, Sapphira?
Well, it was already happening there. It just hadn't really been articulated in the context of Burlesque Festival.
Got you.
So they get it, because they really love opulence and extravagance. And until you've been in like on center stage or center dance floor of like Amnesia with 5,000 clubbers and like 200,000 euros worth of effects going off, and girls dancing all around you in glorious costumes, you will understand why it wasn't difficult to help them understand why it would work. And I took a slide, because I work in media. I took a PowerPoint and I just showed them how many cities had burlesque festivals and how big it was and growing. And I think when someone saw, well, if Wales has its own burlesque festival, Ibiza definitely needs one, they said to me. So, it was a lot of just really finding the right venues. And then they have like high-end venues. So we got on the Cirque du Soleil stage in the first year, which was a lot of hustling, proper hustling.
Wow.
That was a victory, because that, was my vision again, to raise burlesque to absolutely the highest standards. And their venue is like a multi-million-dollar stage. So we had equipment at our fingertips that I've never even been able to touch. That it looked like a space station, like the 8 people operating the stage upstairs. It was huge what they could do.
I can't even picture it. I feel like it would be something out of a movie.
It sort of was. I mean, these people have all come from film and like, top circus tiers of entertainment. So I really knew, having slogged away, like, beating the streets, handing out flyers all over Melbourne, Australia, London, Bristol, that I had made it. It was my welcome in my initiation when Cirque du Soleil said yes to my vision and took me on for the first year. That was my kind of initiation into the next level where I'd like burlesque to be. And I realized it was a really big privilege and honor, and it's taken a lot of work to get to that point. And then they invited us back to open the next year. And I thought that to me was more the indication that like I have potential. And I was very, very, very honored. I was just this Australian standing there kind of quaking in my boots side of stage. And there were many, many things like that were tested my mental health, but luckily I'd been practicing things, a lot of skills, so that helped me just ride that.
So can we talk a bit about your mental health journey, because that's another area you're hugely passionate about, as attested by your memoir. Can you tell us a little bit about the book, and then kind of a little taster of what we'd hear in the book, a little bit about the background and the beginnings of your journey with mental health?
Absolutely. I mean, my absolute aim in life is to share joy, and I had that from a very young age. And I knew even when I was like tiny and knee-high to a grasshopper, I had a special ability to connect with people. And so being a performer in burlesque has just been an extension of that. It just took me time to find myself and to find that as my platform. But I began with a link to Ibiza unbeknownst to me, because I was raised in a really quite horrifically conservative Brethren sect as a teenager, all the way from my babyhood. Wow. And so for the early parts of my life, it was absolutely fine, because I was very innocent and not really, worldly in any way. It became more of a problem once I started going through puberty and questioning some of these very conservative views. And unfortunately, my immediate flamboyance was quite evident. I think all of us on this call who are performers, and anyone listening would know, when you're destined to be performing. It's something that kind of is either makes you the black sheep of your family or the hero of your family. But it is a certain quality. And I think early on I was given the chance to perform at our church. And very evidently, as I got more older and started slinking around in leotards and things, the brothers didn't approve, and it started to get condemned, and it made me feel that, you know, being sexy was very sinful. And it was reinforced that, you know, if you were sort of in any way seductive, you could get sent to hell, or it was a real blight on, you know, what God would think of you. And I think in hindsight, it was slightly a way they used, you know, fear to control me and other women. And so I tried to pigeonhole myself into this like character. I tried to be a really good girl, and I was an actress. So I was just acting. I'd pick up the Bible, I'd say all the prayers, but I was not being genuine, and I was living a double life. So that was where the breakdown eventually happened. Living these two personalities just was not healthy. And I had a psychotic episode when I was 21. So, you know, burlesque was the real light for that to heal. The burlesque wasn't the thing that healed me, and I have to make that clear. I didn't put on a corset in the middle of like a psychiatric home and wave a wand and was better. Like, it took a lot of medication to calm me down, and, you know, some pretty like very, you know, strict methods that I to this day sort of wonder were there better ways. But I'm glad that I got better and it got me home. But it was then a year later when I came to London and I just did not like myself that I found burlesque and found a way to make peace with all these misconceptions. Does that make sense?
Oh, it so does. Fascinating.
Totally.
Yeah, that was where the link was. So for me, the really interesting piece is my whole journey is about full circle. And when I was 21 in this hospital in Melbourne, there was this CD series called Cafe Del Mar Compilations. And I didn't know what Cafe Del Mar was. I just knew that when I was in hospital really unwell, I was allowed a CD player. And this one piece of music called Tones, which was just a haunting but soothing piece of piano, began playing in my room. And it just, it was my lifeline. My thoughts were so chaotic and erratic, and I couldn't tell the truth from the, you know, trees. I was believing so much fear, but this one beautiful, soothing melody was playing in my room, and it just spoke to me and calmed me down. And I can't really explain it, but that song is from a compilation that is actually originated from Cafe Del Mar in Ibiza. Now, here's the interesting thing. The composer of that piece is still alive. And 10 years ago, I emailed him from Australia and said, Mark, your music saved me. When I couldn't play piano, you played it for me. And he was so moved, he sent me the sheet music.
Wow.
It's somewhere in Australia, and my parents are selling the house right now, and I hope that they can find it, because I've had to move a lot following my dreams, and that's meant not being able to take all these little kind of, you know, trinkets. You have to really be quite ruthless when you move countries.
Sure.
Just to dial back for a second, you mentioned that your parents are selling the house. What is your relationship like with them after everything that happened when you were a child and a teenager?
Oh, I love them, you know. They're just really good-hearted people, and they believe different things to me, but it's a great opportunity to practice unconditional love, and I don't think they ever got entangled with this group thinking it would be so damaging for me. I think that they just wanted the best for us, and they felt that there are lots of things people need protecting from, and possibly this group kind of, you know, was quite influential and a bit, you know, militant. So they just were quite impressionable and followed some of these beliefs. But I get along with them really well. You know, I mean, they've come to my burlesque show. They've once seen me do the nipple tassels. The second time I didn't have the gumption to do it. And Mum said, I don't think you need to anyway, darling. Aww. And I was like, okay. So they don't really love burlesque per se, but they also buy me things like, you know, they bought me like a little scarf that went with my costume. It's their way of saying they approve.
We support you. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a wonderful relationship. It's complicated, and, you know, I just really made forgiving them and the church a big part of my mission in life, because it was really awful carrying all this resentment around and blaming everybody. So I did a lot of work on that as well, and I continue to work like that because I just think resentment is so debilitating.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very different experience, but I do have a degree of empathy for what you're talking about, because I was raised in an evangelical Christian household that was pretty zealous. So I've got some level of empathy about kind of the negative ideas that seep in either indirectly or directly about sexuality and and all the things you are and could be, and like it's a huge weighty stuff, isn't it? And can really change how you perceive yourself. So from a kind of creative, I think you used the word flamboyant earlier, point of view, that flamboyance, has that been healing as well, kind of coming in touch with that and like your music and that kind of thing, the creative sides, how is that sort of
I mean, I just
played
can't
in?
not be flamboyant. And
I love
and that's been a problem though, because, you know, that's not how everybody else is. And it's so throughout my life, I've had to work out how to rein it in. And I've had to find like environments and like seek out like sort of circles where that works and I'm accepted and actually
Yes.
encouraged. Otherwise, it's a complete disaster.
And what about your piano and things like that? Are you still writing music? How's all that going? How's that side of things?
Oh, I love the piano. I mean, that was my lifeline. You know, that was my first love, I guess, because that was where I was first. That was permitted all the way through church as well. That was never one of the things that got shut down. Playing classical piano and writing my own songs on piano wasn't something that ever got taken away, whereas like listening to the radio and dancing was, you know, very policed. So that was my outlet, you know, all the stress and like kind of frustration just poured out into piano. But then that was all I had. So I used to play it for hours every day. Then as I got more into like my adulthood and came to London, I initially had a piano I rented. Now, through having burlesque, I don't need it as much because I've found other ways to express myself. But if I ever can, I just love sitting there, you know, and just, it's like meditation for me. It's a bit like what people feel when they run or they swim. It just completely gets me into this like altered sort of ethereal world, and it's very healing. And I love the sound of a real piano. Like keyboards are a bit of a second cousin to the piano, you know?
Yeah, I hear that. We know a thing or two about that, don't we, Rush? Having had
Yes,
to
we do.
lug a keyboard round to some venues, and then you see a venue with a piano and you're like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
After we've lugged it there. Though,
Yeah, after
normally
we've lugged
what
the
happens,
keyboard
we've
there.
lugged the keyboard there and we've set it all up, and then we're like, a piano, but we'd rather use the piano.
Absolutely. Every time.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I love it all. And, you know, burlesque has been the place I could bring it all together because there was no rules. And it was like, oh, I can be a songwriter here. I can play piano. I can sing. I can, you know, there was just a way to sort of be a variety artist of every description. And it's still evolving. I love sitting back and watching people, you know, kind of just invent and add to burlesque. Like, I wouldn't think there could be anything new, but there is always something new, isn't there? Like,
Yeah.
even what you're doing, even what you guys do with like your mental health balloon pop act is just innovative and genius. And it's like, oh my God, that's just a great way to, and spoken words become a big part of burlesque. That wasn't a thing. People didn't really mime or have like the kind of, not, you know, the spoken word, like kind of voiceover type things we see with people doing like positive body affirmation voiceovers or
Yeah.
that's kind of quite in the last kind of 5 years, I think.
So, with an eye on what the landscape of burlesque has been and what it has been to you, what are you looking forward to? So, what do you have planned for your future in terms of burlesque and in terms of your creativity and your journey? What have you got next lined up?
That's such a great question. There's two things that are my calling. One is to fulfill my album, which is finally like getting to this great, exciting, tangible place and taking my songs from audio at recordings to bringing them alive with videos and choreography has been amazing. But I've actually got like 6 of my songs now all stage ready, and they've been like tested in Ibiza, like in some of the top venues and in Bristol. And so I really want to bring like electronic music and burlesque together and have that moment. That's my total like true north. But alongside that, I feel like my mantle is, because I am skilled in understanding how brands work and think and repositioning of things. And I've worked in a lot of big companies and seen how that process is done in international companies. I feel my actual like next task in burlesque is to not be there for me, but to be there for the scene and actually facilitate some of this transitioning from the kind of dark, kind of, you know, dungeony type backstage rooms that we're sort of currently, you know, assigned to helping burlesque be rebranded and repositioned in a way that the public can access it. So that's what World Burlesque Day was about, because, I have an ability to understand how to orientate and navigate something global because of my job roles. And also I feel like I have an ability to orientate and facilitate some rebranding for us as a scene because I understand how that happens. And World Burlesque Day is part one of that strategy. World Burlesque Day is about making burlesque less frightening for people because it's a day and it's a burlesque global day. So already we are, by force and by just having that day, united, and that makes us seem less weird and less obscure to the general public.
Absolutely. And you're obviously seeing the shifts and you're attuned to see the small steps that are going to make the big change. If somebody listening is listening because they think burlesque and cabaret is interesting and maybe they're interested in mental health and the benefits that it might have for them there, why do you think they should give burlesque a go? What is it about it that will help them or transform their life potentially?
It is a very rare art form where there's no rules, really. And in that, it gives you complete license to reinvent yourself. So if you can imagine it in burlesque, it's possible. It's just really thrilling.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Well, I think this is a really good opportunity for us to think about what we're grateful for this week. It's time to get grateful. Sapphira, do you want to start? What are you grateful for this week?
I'm just grateful for talking to you and for Zoom, really. I mean, it's an amazing piece of technology that saved me. I think I've had a lot of interesting people pinging into my living room that I would have never reached out to. Yeah. That has been the gift. Yeah. It's enabled us to get resourceful, and it's made us sort of seek each other out a bit more. That's one thing I'm grateful for. You go.
Mine's little and silly, so I'll go next. It is not silly, but it is little. I am grateful for this week. I tasted the best grapes I have ever had in my life.
Were they the cotton candy ones?
So the cotton candy grapes. Who has cotton?
Yeah, candy floss flavoured grapes.
What?
There's a breed of grape that naturally tastes like candy floss. They weren't those grapes. So
they weren't, but I need to seek those out immediately. So these were from a local farm shop. So they are, homegrown grapes, and they are massive. They're you can't do them in one bite. They're like a 2-bite grape. They are plump and juicy and sweet and So I am grateful for fruit, and especially given having a weird body that hates things at different points. It's safe, nice food to eat and yummy. What more can you want?
Nature's candy.
Absolutely.
Nature's candy.
So that's the juicy grapes. That's me this week.
So we've also heard from two of the lovely Invisible Cabaret girls, two of our troupe. We have heard from the lovely Ida Sanguine, who said that she is grateful for morning cuddles with doggies, and then added, it's like an addendum, doggy butts are the best. And then we've also heard from Belle Bluestocking, the lovely Belle Bluestocking, who said that she's also grateful for a fluffy creature, and she's grateful for her little bunny, Frida. She's got a new house bunny, and has sent us through a picture of Frida in her teepee. I don't know if I can handle this much cute, so I think we should move on.
Go on, Ferrero. Rochelle, what are you grateful for this week?
Oh, I'm so excited to be telling you what I'm grateful for this week. I am grateful that in September, I'm going to be an auntie. Yay! Oh my God! I'm so excited. My brother and sister-in-law told us at the beginning of the year that they're expecting a baby, and I have had to keep this secret for 3 months, 12 weeks. It's been very, very difficult for me because I just wanted to tell everybody because I'm so excited for them. I'm so, so, so excited. And I have on more than one occasion referred to the future baby as our baby, collective. It's not just their baby, it's our baby.
Everyone's baby.
So, yeah, everyone's baby. this is a baby that is going to be so beloved in our entire family. We are so excited. I was lucky enough to be on the phone call when my brother told my grandparents and my aunt, and I was on the phone call, my parents were on the phone call. Basically, we were all on loudspeaker together. It was like we were in the room together. And he said, "You're going to be great-grandparents." And the room erupted. Like, they absolutely screamed and shouted. They were just so, so excited. So, yes, congratulations, Josh and Ellie. And congratulations me, because
Josh
I'm going to be an
and
auntie.
Ellie and you. Well, that's really lovely.
On our baby.
So weird.
I know. Sorry.
I am very, very excited for you all.
Thank you. We're excited
Yeah,
too.
I can tell. Speaking of excitement, Sapphira, where can people, if they're G'd up to learn more about the stuff that you've been talking about, where can they find you? What in particular are we looking out for? Give us the deets.
So I'm at Sapphira Music on most platforms, at SAPPHIRA Music. And then World Burlesque Day on most platforms as well.
What date is that in the calendar, Sapphira?
It's the 26th of April 2021. It's a Monday.
26th of April. It's in the diary.
And
Lovely.
join the World Burlesque Day Dance Challenge. I am releasing a drum and bass cover of Boots Are Made for Walking, which is quite fun to boogie around to. And we're going to have a dance challenge, which will be called Burlesque in Boots.
Burlesque in Boots.
Thank you so much, Sapphira, for joining us. And thank you to our listeners. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here with us. So if you'd like to join in the conversation and share what you're grateful for, you can find us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and YouTube, or you can send us an email at invisiblecabaret@gmail.com. All of the good things, all of the socials, you can find us there. And we'd love to hear from you. Stay safe, stay well, and be kind to yourselves. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This has been the Invisible Cabaret podcast. Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, please reach out to us on one of our many socials. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Just search Invisible Cabaret. We'd also be grateful if you could rate and review the podcast and share it with a friend so we can continue stripping away stigma together.